And we are live. So for those of you that are joining in on the recorded session, as always, we are going to take a little bit of time, recognize a few that are popping into the room. So bear with me while we go through that. Kind of pull up the stream, make sure everything's functioning properly. And then we will be able to kick off into the topic at hand. So I got to make sure I don't have my volume on. I see you guys popping in. Give me a minute here. Just kind of situating, and I'll pull up and we'll talk to a few of the people as they come in. And we got some good stuff to talk about tonight. So tonight is Monday night. And it's 5 o'clock somewhere, so if you want a drink, go get one. So, anyhow, looks like OBS might not be participating as planned, but the stream looks pretty solid. So if you guys see any glitch, it looks like I might be glitching a little bit, but we'll overcome. So what's up, XRP Carolina? How you doing? Bubba Snipes, good to see you in. Z-Bits, what's up? Great stream last night. Enjoyed it thoroughly. Great topic, great content, and you'll get better and better and better every time you stream until it becomes second nature. So, what's up, man? What's up, Rain? Let's see, what is that? Great time Friday night, man. That was insane, dude. Absolutely insane. I think I'm still in recovery mode from streaming way too long. Even though I was switching channels, it was like, you know, going from one spot to the next. It was actually, I'll tell you what, though, it was enjoyable. It was definitely enjoyable. So, Annalise George, good to see you on. Glad you made it. Mac314. Thinking of selling some XRP for more LTC. Man, I'll tell you what, I like LTC. I've always liked LTC. I don't know about now. I don't even know where to comment on that, you know. I got into LTC at the low point. So and even back before in 2017 when I picked up the first LTC, I got in around 70, and then I got back in again around 68 during this latest drop-off. So I don't even know where to comment now. I feel like as the market goes up, I think there's a lot of great opportunities out there. But yeah, I mean, you got to make your own choice and kind of look and you know, based on what you feel, man. Yeah, I don't know. So let's see. XRP Minute. Yep, what's up? No notice again. No, I'm blocking you from my notifications. And I put it up on Twitter. I don't know, you know. DAC, what's going on? Glad to see you here. Dan, what's up? Alex Yeet. Every time I see you, Alex Yeet, I think about my son watches the Ireland boys all the time, and they have the Yee Nation. And all I hear always in the background is yeet, yeet. And I see come in Alex Yeet. And that's what it reminds me of. kind of funny. Richter, what's up? So let's see what we got going on here. Both are good, yeah, man. So let's see. Man, how am I losing my spot here? Here we go. So, look at this. Look at this. Sin City, what's going on? All right, so let's kick this off. I think we got a decent crowd here. Let's see what I am getting here. Hey, just got a notification that I'm live. Hey, that's pretty cool. And I got a nice finish from Google that said that I've achieved all of my health goals for the day. That's always nice of Google to tell me that I've achieved my health goals. Glad Google's keeping track. If Google wasn't keeping track, man, I don't know what I would do. So, all right. So, Carrie Doll, what's going on? Man, Friday night, I'll tell you guys what, we had an amazing stream. It was a ton of fun. Started out, I did a nice, I had to get on. I had all these thoughts trapped in my head about India. And so I had to jump in and, and get that out there. Yo, what's up, Bananas? What's going on? Man, I know it's late. I got to start streaming earlier. I think that's what it's going to be about. I think eventually it's going to be an 8 o'clock time slot. But then I got to figure out like the right time here. But I think 8 o'clock is really definitely a nice time slot. So see here, drinking a big ass bottle of water. I've relegated. Going to the I go from one extreme to the other. That's keeps you on your toes. You just never know. You can't tell one from the other. So, anyhow, let's, man, you know me, man. I'm down with OTC. Hell yeah, you know me. So, check this out. See if I can open up my, my chat here. Here we go. Let's see. Come on. Alkaline. You know what? It's always good to be a little bit alkaline. You don't want to be too acidic. I look like a giant. I know, that's why I was going for that effect. So actually, this is the same bottle of water, but it's just a different perspective on the water. So, I'm down with OTC. Chip, you down with OTC? All right, so check this out. Let's get started. All right, let's jump into this. Anybody who's listening to the recorded line or when the playback, you get 6 minutes of intros, and then we get into it. I wanted to start off tonight. Man, I always make a mistake when I decide to read up on the news, because then I get fired up. But I gotta prepare for next week. I got to get back in news mode and stay politically oriented. But man, I'll tell you guys what. So going through, every day is a new day, and it always seems like it's a gift that keeps on giving. So I see this brief statement that's come out of Nancy Pelosi over here. And for those of you guys that are overseas, if you turn on the TV, I'm sure you'll see Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House. Anyhow, so she is absolutely, out of control. And there's so much, we're kind of at this point now. This has nothing to do with digital assets, but it'll get into digital asset because there's kind of a nice opening to it. But there's so much stuff that goes on, and she's definitely drinking something, man. She's definitely drinking their Kool-Aid. But this is what gets me is that there's so much speak right now, and a lot of double speak. But there's so much double speak that's they're kind of on this tightrope that they're walking, and it's extremely dangerous, because what we're seeing out of them is a significant amount of anger, growing anger. You see a significant amount of desperation, and then as they walk this tightrope, their speak gets more and more dangerous as they go on. And really, this latest one is, borderline treasonous, and we've already seen a significant amount of treason coming from some ex-political officials, and it's getting to a point where they've got to stop, because it's a danger to the safety and security of our political representatives. It's a danger to the President of the United States, but it's also a major disruption to what this country is trying to do, meaning start working, do what you're paid to do, get back to work, and start, passing bills and laws that the people need in order to survive in this country. Instead of coming out on TV every 2 seconds and trying to, orchestrate which is what they're doing, trying to orchestrate some type of fictitious victory that they're going to, attempt in 2020. But this one, at this point, again, it's going beyond the typical I disagree with your politics to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi stating that somebody from Trump's family or staff should do an intervention for the good of the country. Now, what exactly does that mean? And if you read between the lines from his staff, does that mean then anybody? But it's definitely opening up, some security issues to his safety by her making these dangerous statements like that. Now, these, to even do that, a lot of lies, a lot of distortions of the truth, all over the way, this president is going into and handling certain foreign nations that are detrimental and have detrimental policies to the security, to the actual physical security, and to the economic security of the United States. And so, I wanted to open with that, because, I think it's important, and I think it's important because as we draw attention to it, we're beginning to realize that the swamp really, when Trump talked about the swamp, and this has been going on for a long time, the deep state, whatever it might be, it crosses all political barriers, all political lines, and now it's a battle for the survival of this country, for the future of this country, to really pull away from the past, who knows how many years of detrimental policy that has done nothing but serve to enrich those who are sitting in Washington. And incidentally, over the past week, those in Congress actually made another attempt to vote on a pay raise, as though they're already not getting paid enough for doing a job, when they parade around the country basically bashing each other, and it's just detrimental. Now, on the other side of the coin, because on my last stream when I talked about the Token Taxonomy Act, I also mentioned that there's a facade that's going on, and this is why it's dangerous, because with this facade of them bashing each other and making up these false accusations, but especially in this scenario, because they see the President of the United States now is antagonistic to the status quo of what government, meaning within Congress, whether it's the House or the Senate, has been able to get away with for so long, which also rings true to exactly what's been happening with foreign nations taking advantage of the United States. Now, this all factors in because of some of the things that have been going on also in regards to the Federal Reserve, what's going on right now in regards to trade, the trade negotiation. They want to call it a trade war because it sounds ominous, but it's trade negotiation, because if we were at a trade war, things would be a little bit different, but it's trade negotiation at this point between China and the United States. And for many, many years, the government of China has had an opportunity to take advantage of the United States' lenient trade policy towards it. So it's very, very critical at this point, for things to really be aired out, and for there to be a leveling, so to speak, of the playing fields in trade. Now, what we just saw and we just witnessed in Mexico. Now, this is kind of fundamental, and then I'll kind of move on to here. But this is really important because what we saw in Mexico, and really for the first time, I don't want to say in history, but the first time in recent history, the Mexican government has allowed floods of people coming in from their southern border. Now, Mexico has very, very strict immigration policy, but yet they've allowed mass numbers of people to invade their southern border with the intent of allowing them to enter into the United States. Now, one country breached its own laws in order to breach the laws of another. Now, by doing so, those actions are tantamount to a declaration of war by allowing an invading force into another country, regardless of what it might be. Now, obviously, we're not going to anticipate, we're not going to look at these individuals that are coming up from the southern country as an invading force, as they're not coming in with weapons with the intent of attacking this country. However, in order to deal with what's happening at the southern border, the President of the United States put Mexico on notice and made a statement that if you continue to allow people to penetrate into our border, we're going to respond with tariffs. Now, there's two ways that countries can respond to one another. One is through the levying of sanctions and tariffs. The other is through military action. And in this scenario, obviously, Mexico is a very important neighbor. Mexico is a very important trade partner. And so we need to treat them with respect. And at the same time, we expect a certain level of decorum and respect also coming from the Mexican government on the other side. So, there's so much going on. Now, with this, with everything that's happening politically, we also have to keep our eye on the prize, because the prize is the development and the technology of digital asset in the United States, the development of the technology of blockchain. Now, this is also very critical because if we're kind of manipulated into believing that we're always living in this state of threat and fear, and if we allow certain said politicians and the mainstream media to publicize ridiculous, dangerous statements while we take our eye off the prize, which is again a technology and an asset class that's in development that really is for the benefit of this country, being the United States, as well as countries around the world. And so one of the things that I had mentioned before was really this leveling of the playing fields, not from a socialistic perspective, but from a capitalist free market perspective, a leveling of the playing fields, which really allows everybody the same free opportunity to the global economy. So, and that's where we're going to take this now, and we're going to move it into the next level, and we're going to kind of go into second gear. So let me there have been too many comments going down, and it's been hard for me to even pay attention as they've been flying by. So I'm trying to figure out where we should start, but ZBits to at Mac314, inflation skyrocketed after the gold standard dropped. Even every currency was based on the US dollar fiat, full faith and credit of the US. Now they're moving away from the dollar and we keep printing money. Can't we just get along? Yeah, I agree, Carrie. And that really is exactly where, we need to be. We need to figure out ways to get along. And I'll tell you where we get along is through economics. Economics is what moves the world. Economics is how people around the world get along through trade, through negotiation, and through access to this global economy. That's what really allows us all to get along. And I learned those lessons many, many times over as I traveled around the world, participated in different trade negotiations or business negotiations with people from all parts of the world, and then again traveling to those countries. And it's something that you never forget, because when you're living in an isolated bubble, which many of us end up being in, mainly because we're subjected to our circle of influence, which are our friends, family, and neighbors, and those who we work with. But if we're not interacting on a daily basis with people from outside of our circle of influence, from outside, meaning, and this could go as far as just, again, dealing with people from, people that you don't know, but most importantly, being able to deal with people from all over the world. And that's what has always been so amazing, about the United States as a melting pot of people from all over the world. But again, it's so important to have a certain level of respect for everybody, and that to me is super, super meaningful. So you think they'll make another Howard the Duck? I don't know who that question was to, but I remember Howard the Duck. That was hilarious. That's funny. So I can't even go back to all this stuff. I don't even know where to go. Let me see here. Hang on. Okay, that's where we were. And now let me just go by. When Moon, Republican, goodbye. What does that mean? I don't even know what that means. But that's ridiculous. So if that statement was, I'm discussing Republican issues or, political issues that are relevant to the space, and then, you want to leave because of that, okay, that's fine. But anyhow, I didn't mean to go on that, little rant, but I thought it was important. And anyhow, so now let's take this to another level because this is really important. Now, and this is kind of where, let's see, now it's, of course, the tabs aren't going to open when I want them to open. Okay, this is another statement. And I think it's important as we look at these statements, because I think the media is absolutely, responsible. And what we learned from this also is that the media and the terminology, we have to look at terminology as well. And it's amazing how you can be manipulated into, and D&I talks a lot about the intent and, reading in between the lines, but I like a lot, the way they utilize terminology. And when we allow terminology to become common speak, and then we're kind of in trouble if the terminology is contrary to what our beliefs are. But, oh no, what was this one? This was the one article that I wanted to look at, but anyhow, so there is I thought was important, and I can't open this article for some reason, but it was an article on Business Insider about Judy Shelton, who Trump is nominating to be in the I don't know, I forget the exact position, and that's why I'm trying to open it. Let me see if I can get it here real quick. But sitting in the Federal Reserve. And it was interesting because she had some interesting statements. So she had one interesting statement here that I thought was really all telling. And then we're going to go into something else here. Let me see. Here we go. I gotta scroll up or scroll down. Now, where did I put this? I grabbed it, and now it's gone. I think I copied and pasted over it when I was trying to grab something from Amazon. Oh no, here it is. So Judy Shelton, and it's interesting because, and this is why I posted something on the Federal Reserve, the gold standard, Bretton Woods, which is also important in this statement. But this is Judy Shelton, who Trump has nominated as a candidate, and she is for the central bank, and she's actually advocating a return, the Federal Reserve return to the Bretton Woods system. And here is a quote that I pulled out of the article, and I think it's interesting because when we look at it, what is really the intent at this point as we're moving through this system. And after we go through this, we're going to look at some interesting statements from BNY Mellon because it all relates very nicely together. But Judy Shelton was quoted as saying, "I think we have to say, what is the role of central banks in a productive economy?" she said. "And are they helping or hurting? I think it's legitimate to say, are they too dominant, or does it turn out that they only serve a small segment of the private sector? And what is their interaction with governments, and what is their impact on currency?" I thought that was a really interesting statement. And then as it went into the article, she then was advocating again for the Federal Reserve to return to the Bretton Woods system, which was a balancing of the exchanges and for the currencies to be based off of and going back to a gold standard, which we all know the gold standard ended in the United States. The U.S. dollar wasn't backed any longer by the gold standard as of 1971. So now from this, what I thought was interesting, as I was kind of always digging around looking for how banks are responding and reacting to the digital asset space. Now, BNY Mellon, we all know and have probably heard of BNY Mellon. BNY Mellon on their, and this was just last month, they published a 3-part series or article that specifically focused on the emerging trends and the evolution of digital assets in this space. And so let me see if the authors are here. So we have expert contributors. We have Tom Castelline, who's the global head of custody at BNY Mellon Asset Servicing. And then we have Lucianne Foster, who's the head of digital partnerships with BNY Mellon. And so what's amazing about this is as we get into the articles, now again, it was a 3-part series. So I kind of focused in on initially on part 2. Part 1 was interesting. Part 2 was a little bit more interesting. And I pulled a little statement out from part 2. Part 2, let me read this quote. Then we're going to dig into it a little. I'm going to share the screen so you guys can see it because I think it's really important. Part 3 gets into what's really at stake and how to ensure the safekeeping of private keys. So I'm giving a little bit away. So this quote here from part 2 of the article states, "The industry is only starting its journey on the use of blockchain technology and tokenization of assets in capital markets. But some important lessons have to be learned in the past 2 years. Some important lessons have been learned in the past 2 years, which have helped to reset the course of the market. Tokenization should be focused on efficiency and productivity gains for the industry, which are numerous rather than easy money." So again, the focus on productivity, efficiency, and I also believe utility, instead of, we're just looking for a speculative, easy flip. And there's that tendency to want to just flip and make money quickly. But that, is definitely, just short term. So hang on a second. Here we go. Sorry. There it is, Mac. I wish we could copy and paste other people's comments. That would make it easy. Yeah, can't do much. So, sorry, I've kind of missed out on a lot of what's been said here. But media is very bad. I'm just going back, checking out what you guys are. If there's anything in here, I need to keep this a little bit more visible. So, all right, let's check this out. All right, hang on a second. Where is it? Come on. Here we go. Is this part 2? While digital assets, this is crazy right here. The gold rush of ICOs. This is it right here. I love this. All right, let's make sure this is part 2. Our thinking. Let me make sure this is the right one. Our thinking. No, yes. Part 2. Perfect. All right, hang on a second. Here we go. Where is my share screen? There we go. And boom. There we go. All right, how do you like that? Here we go. Check this out. Now, this is so awesome. And the reason why I think it's so awesome is here we go. We go from, kind of chaos at the political level. Then we go to, some chaos at the economic trade level. And then, we want to emphasize and focus in on why is it important to stay, focused, keep our eye on the prize. Because as, you can kind of let your mind wander into all the negative news that's out there. It's important to keep, especially since, we're involved and wanting to follow every aspect of what's happening within this industry. We want to see when banks and large entities are starting to adopt this technology, that are starting to adopt this asset class. So I think it's really, really important that we identify and we follow and we look at exactly what's going on. So hang on a second. What's that? Hang on a second. What is this? I keep expecting Auburn rain to come flying into view. That would be that's awesome. Okay, here we go. So let's look at this real quick. All right, so we've got where were we? All right. Okay, so BNY Mellon. Now, the first thing that we're going to notice here in this article, and again, this is part 2, and I think part 2 is important because we're looking at, you know, the fact that the industry is only starting its journey, right? So this is what I just read. Now, this is such a critical statement because they're talking about blockchain technology and the tokenization of assets. And so, you know, they're identifying that this space is just still in its infancy. We've gone into a corrective mode that's for the good. We're starting to see this space, you know, start to really generate some very, very important fundamentals for, you know, further development and really for, you know, further growth of digital assets. So when you get an organization like BNY Mellon and you have, you know, individuals that are identifying, you know, through this article series and utilizing, you know, very important, you know, language, so to speak, to really boost up and showing how important this space is. Now, you know, he's really going through and looking at the historical perspective, the historic perspective going back as far as what, 2013, 2012. You know, when they start really identifying ICOs, ICOs really kind of being a thing of the past. You know, why was there like this gold rush mentality? And he actually says that here in the beginning, in that 2017 to 2018 insane boom of the market as people really started to see it. But we saw new investors that really didn't have the same, you know, and it's difficult to say, but didn't have the same knowledge base of investing, and, you know, might have been a little bit more, you know, easily subjected to FOMO and the FUD to start, you know, really, you know, trying to invest and looking for the next best thing or the next Bitcoin at that point. And so there was a little bit of that, and so they mentioned the lack of investor knowledge. But even if you were a knowledgeable a stock investor, that doesn't mean that you are a knowledgeable digital asset investor at that point. And so there was just so much going on so quickly. You know, people obviously wanted to get, you know, actively involved. So let's see here. Zbits, BNY Mellon, Crystal Lambert, before joining Accenture, 5+ years of capital market industry as head of FX and TSY support department at Bank of New York Mellon, key area. Yep. It's amazing. It really is amazing. So here we go. Let's see. Okay, you guys are going down. Okay. So anyhow, Mellon was the guy that died with all the XRP. Yep. So lack of investor knowledge, definitely one point of it. Like the gold rush, many investors lost money. Now, you lost money if you sold, obviously, even like with the stocks, and this happens on a regular basis. You know, people are looking for this get rich quickly, didn't really understand what they're getting into. They were following the masses. As it rode up, they rode up with them. As it went down, they rode down with them. And so it was this, that was that initial period. Then there were a lot of ICO scams, a lot of companies that came out that were supposed companies that launched their ICOs. And even if they weren't scams, there were companies that really had no fundamental to really developing anything. They just had ideas very similar to what happened in the high-tech boom period when a lot of companies came out with ideas, no substance. People poured millions and millions of dollars. They go IPO because that's the thing to do. At that point, we're talking about the large financial institutions embracing IPOs of companies that had zero fundamental, zero product, simply because it had a .com after it. Now we saw the same type of thing happening as ICOs, except we had maybe, let's call them less educated investors going in and investing significant amounts of money into ICOs and then losing money. Obviously, in the beginning, lack of transparency, booming value. So there are a lot of interesting things that they put into. But what's really interesting with all of this, and we're starting to see a significant growth. And this is also where we see that BNY Mellon is identifying that there's a significant growth in the direction of the amount of money raised by ICOs. And I thought this was really all telling, because if we look at Q1 of 2018, I think this is Q1, maybe no, it's that first half of the year. I'm not sure exactly how they're breaking this up, but I'm assuming then the H1 would be half year. This would be the other second part of the year. I assume that's what that is. Now, here we have 2017. Look at this minuscule amount of ICO. 2018, that beginning half year 2018, that was the boom year for ICOs that dropped off. I wish there was something here to show the trend into 2019, because there was definitely, a lot more development into the space. Then they talk here about regulatory clarity. All the things that we've been talking about on multiple channels are all the things that this article, seems to be covering a little bit more in depth in terms of his, banking terminology, maybe, utilizing a lot of these, different terms here. But, it's interesting because here he's talking about the digital asset investment funds, where they have to comply with the Investment Company Act of 1940. He's going to talk later on here. He's going to talk about really all the factors that go into the Securities Exchange Act of 1933 and 1934, and all of that, the securities, because now what he's really talking about is things are developing in the trend, moving from the ICOs, then going into the STOs, which is securities token offering, which is interesting. So you have the tokenization of real estate, and then there's all these different markets. I think it's really interesting because the key point with all of this is that there's so much information out there, and these guys are in the financial institutions, looking back at it now, and they're just now starting to catch up with many of the early adopters, which would be the majority of us on here now, being early adopters into this space that can theoretically be so much further ahead knowledge wise in terms of this space than even those that are working for these financial organizations. So then I think it's interesting because the third part of his article that he talks about here is, and this is really geared up for mainstream adoption of this space, and this is ensuring the safekeeping of private keys and crypto address is essential to institutional investors. It's not just essential to institutional investors, it's essential to all investors, but especially institutional investors, because they're the ones that, they're going to be responsible for a significant amount of other people's money. So it's one thing if you lose your own, it's a whole other thing if you lose other people's money. So then they get into, the safekeeping of digital assets and, basically all the stuff that many of us know. But this is really just, it's eye-opening because here he is, he gets into, the storage, online storage, offline storage, getting into the Swiss crypto vault, talking about what Gemini's offering, what Coinbase in terms of custody and custodial accounts for all these institutional investors, and it just keeps it's just amazing. There's more series with, and this is BNY Mellon. They're really focused in on, what is the digital asset space. So here's crypto custody, cryptocurrencies, the new market structure. So there's a lot of great series, and this is on BNY Mellon. So that to me was, when I found that, and I started reading their series here, here's where I pulled out a few snippets. But this was from the third one. I thought that this snippet here was interesting because look at what it says here, and that's what I just read. But what's really at stake is ensuring the safekeeping of private keys and crypto addresses while allowing third party to access pertinent information stored on the wallet to provide relevant services such as asset servicing, delivery versus payment, audit, fund administration, etc. So, that was a statement out of part 3. And so just really amazing stuff when we think about, the source. So, all right. Can I link it? Yes. You know what? I'm going to link it in the description. I'll definitely put it up there. I love that article. Just amazing. I mean, finding stuff like that is, again, it's eye-opening. It's kind of all telling, and it shows us that these big financial institutions are 100% researching the space and trying to educate themselves about the space, but not just educate themselves. They want to educate their customers, their other clientele, which are also investors and institutional investors. That's their clientele that they're reaching out to, and so that is very, very important. All right, let's see. What do we got here? BNY Mellon wants this to moon more than anyone, so that magical 2 billion lost keys XRP can go into action. They're waiting to ambush. The end part is the key for governments taking transactions. There's so much. That's exactly it. There's a significant amount, when they get into exactly that. What is the government going to actually, what's the involvement they're going to get into, and that really then rolls back to everything that I kind of started out with, because and the reason why I wanted to start out with the political aspect first. Obviously, it might have scared a few people off, but you know what? They got to get tougher skin. So, but the point there is we need clear transparency in the functionality of government, and we need to be able to hold our government representatives accountable regardless of what party line they cross, regardless of what our positions are. Each and every one of those representatives that go into Washington needs to respond back to their constituents honestly and with full transparency of action. So obviously we can see their voting record. However, there's so many other things that go on from a financial perspective to understand every last dollar that is given to them in their campaign, where it comes from, how it's utilized, and so forth and so forth. But it's very, very important. And that's one of the aspects that blockchain technology can help provide, especially then, as we're, going into our, overall, we go into voting, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that is very, very important. One of the things they mentioned here is an audit. So when Trump, goes and talks about the Fed, Trump is really going after the Fed in terms of, the interest rate increases and the impact it then had on the economy. Now, on the other side of this, we see an ex-Obama advisor, Larry Summers, comes out again with extremely dangerous language when it has to do with trade negotiation and how Trump is handling the Federal Reserve that all of a sudden, a couple of months ago, decides to increase the interest rates at such a rapid pace. Even a small percentage is rapid because we were close to 0%. We're at 0.5%, 1%, and all of a sudden it jumps up. And that's, and it's just too much, and it definitely impacted the economy. Now, Trump is very right about, also being able to audit the Federal Reserve, audit the government, find out exactly what's happening. And here this guy, Larry Summers, comes out and says there's something depraved about Trump's dictator envy. So here's, Trump going after China, going after Venezuela, going after North Korea, going after Iran. Where's the envy? what he's doing is, fulfilling campaign promises and going after bad actor states that have aggressive tendencies to their neighbors and to the world at large, both economically and from a security perspective. So, so it's mind-boggling, when we see these types of things happening. But I would love to be able to go back and see full transparency, full record of what these guys did. What did Larry Summers do when he was in the Obama administration as an advisor? What were some of the things that he was advising on? What were some of the things that Obama had to do from a trade perspective? What were some of the things that he had to do from a military perspective? They seem to whitewash a lot of the things that happen because they're trying to get a specific purpose, and they're trying to rewrite the terminology that's being utilized. And to me, it's borderline. Again, it's very, very dangerous to what they're doing. Now, one of the things that, and this is within China, and I think this is really also another aspect when we're looking at trade. Now, we talked about the significance of trade in many streams before, and really, if you look at the full purpose of cross-border payments and RippleNet, and what XRP overall, what digital assets can do from a global perspective to simplify the exchange of goods, to simplify the completion of business transaction. But when you have other countries, again, without transparency, you need full transparency when you're negotiating. And if you have one party that is negotiating with bad intent or with ill intent, or they're negotiating with one hand behind their back, doing something completely in complete opposition of what you're sitting and talking about, then you have an issue. So China, for years, would manipulate their currency, devaluing their currency, which would have an impact on their competitive advantage and put the United States at a competitive disadvantage, while putting them at a competitive advantage by lowering the cost of their product, making it more difficult for the United States or any other countries, for that matter, to export, or for China to import foreign product. Plus, with the manipulation of goods, they also placed high tariff on all of these other products. So American products going into China had extremely high tariffs all these years. And so now what Trump's talking about is, let's have a fairness. If you want to put tariffs on our product, we're going to put equal amount of tariff on your product. That's what it's about. That's the trade negotiation. It's not a war the way everyone wants to make it out to be. But again, we have to go back and look at a even playing field to allow all to have a similar opportunity within the global economy. And that's what's really important. And that is exactly what is being offered and allowed to happen within the digital asset space. And so, so that's really important. Anyhow, let me look at some of your comments here. Let's see if there's, see what you guys might have to say, not say. Sorry, I've been kind of ignoring and just going on a soapbox rant for a little while. So I need to take a second and get some water. So. Bubba Snipes, I appreciate that. I'll tell you what, whenever I have a discussion with somebody, I always make an attempt to stick to the facts, because facts are facts. If you go based on emotion, then you're going to lose the argument. If you want to go by who's more aggressive in the argument, then let's get into a boxing ring instead of a pissing match of voices. And I'll tell you what, I've never backed down from any form of discussion, no matter where it was. And I can remember, this goes back a number of years. I was walking through the streets of Chicago, and there were some people out there protesting. Not going to tell you exactly what they were protesting about, but anyhow, they were protesting something that I thought was not just incorrect, but it was historically inaccurate, what they were saying, the statements they were making. So I went over to them and confronted them. We got into an interesting conversation, and I told one of the guys out front, I said, well, you're obviously not from that area. You don't seem like you've ever traveled before. Where have you traveled to? And have you ever left Chicago to be making all these grandiose statements of obviously you seem to know what you're talking about. And he goes, oh yeah, I've been to Canada. I said, okay, but you've never been to the countries that you're talking about. So what makes you the ultimate expert on those countries? And one of the areas that he's trying to support was fully run by a terrorist entity. And so I told him, I said, well, if you're so passionate about that, then let's go walk down the street here and I'll buy you a plane ticket and I'll get you a one-way plane ticket. You go over there and you go tell them what your feelings and beliefs are. And then let's report back in 2 weeks if you make it out alive. And so he pretty much just shut up and turned around and walked back the other way because, facts are facts. And, if you want to try to make stuff up and go based on misinformation, then so be it, So anyhow, let's not go down that path right now. So something else that popped out at me. So I'm looking at the banks. I was looking at all of these different organizations that seem to have their Me Too moments in terms of getting into digital asset. And one thing popped out. So we've talked a lot about how the positive impact that digital assets can have in bringing millions and millions of people, millions of unbanked and underbanked into the global economy. So as part of that, we're starting to see others, again, having their Me Too moment, trying to develop their own digital asset. We have JP Morgan with the JPM coin. We have Facebook with the global coin. We have the USC coin, which is the utility settlement coin, which was developed by a group of banks to be used for a cross-border payment and only used by the banks, nobody else. And so more and more, seem to be trying to, test the market, and they want to get into and really, find their path, again, their Me Too moment, to say, hey, we can have a digital asset of our own. We don't have to rely on the proven technology that's already out there. And this came up, I think it was on DNI's stream the other day. And I was typing in, I said, you know what? I believe fully in competition. So to me, the fact that you have all these entities that are developing, similar technologies to what RippleNet has developed, it's just very complimentary to RippleNet to say, hey, you know what? You guys are onto something amazing, and we're trying to replicate it. So now, along this vein and this idea of, let's, these financial institutions and corporations going through and attempting to design or develop their own digital asset, there's many that are still trying to rely on the old financial instruments to attempt to create a new competitive advantage or a new competitive product to try to solve this problem that they've never been able to solve before, but they now think they can solve it by utilizing the same old financial instruments. And so what's crazy is, so I'm looking through all this, and this article pops up about Amazon. So Amazon is launching a brand new credit card for the underbanked with bad credit. So I'm looking through it. I said, hey, this is kind of cool. Maybe it's going to be digital asset backed. Maybe Amazon is kind of showing their cards and really, seeing what we're going to see. And so what comes out is that the e-commerce giant ended up partnering with Synchrony Financial to launch Amazon Credit Builder. Now, the Amazon Credit Builder, according to this website, it says here, hang on, just that's funny, Carrie, just putting lipstick on an ugly fat legacy systems. That's hilarious. So they have this this program here called, again, Amazon Credit Builder, a program that lends to shoppers with no credit history or bad credit who would otherwise be exempt from Amazon's loyalty cards. So I said, okay, this sounds interesting. It's Amazon's attempt at bringing in those who have no credit history or bad credit. So you know what's coming next, because this is always what comes next. Their goal here, and this was a quote directly from the group here in the article. It said, reaching farther down the credit curve comes with risk. So we're talking about people that have zero credit, or you start going down into the 600s, the 500s, or even lower in terms of credit score. Now all of a sudden there's a lot of risk because there's an issue with potential payback of utilizing the credit card. So they want to offer, or they are offering, what's called a secured credit card in order to mitigate risk. They're asking people, if you want a credit card, deposit, let's say $500, and you'll get a $500 credit limit. So you're basically putting up the $500 collateral in order to get your $500. So you can borrow $500 that you're putting up as collateral. So you take $500 out to borrow $500 of credit. So you're buying your own credit. Now, in order to buy your own credit, guess what the interest rate is? The interest rate is 28.24%. 28%. So, 28% is insane. But even if you have good credit, there's credit cards out there that are charging you 16 to 24%, even when you have good credit. Now, it's insane. Those are insane interest rates. There's cards out there that could probably, charge up to 30% plus, which is crazy. So at first I'm like, all right, maybe there's something different. They've got a different agenda. They've got something new. There's nothing new. They're basically saying, yes, we want you. We want to find a new customer base to spend your money with Amazon. We want you to have a credit card so you can spend it. We're going to charge you 28% so you can buy stuff from us. But you got to take $500 out of your pocket first. Then we'll give you the $500 credit. But so I see the pros and cons. I completely 100% get their point as to why they're charging a high percentage, because you have to mitigate the risk of these individuals that have zero credit or have bad credit. But, so here, it's just so shocking. So let's look at the pros of this scenario. And then let's look at the alternates in this scenario. So the pro, it's an available solution. It's offered by Amazon. It helps an individual with bad credit to potentially establish a positive credit history, which is important. It's important for people to have a positive credit history. The balance can be paid in full without incurring interest rate. So if you borrow the $500, you can pay the $500 back and not pay interest on it. So I like what Whale Rider's thinking, because that is the alternate. So the con with all of this is that you have extremely high interest rate. The alternative to all of this is that there's crypto debit cards. There's digital asset backed loans. So if you don't have to go that far now, how long is it going to be before Coinbase, Uphold, Gemini, or one of the others begin to establish credit cards that are digital asset based on individuals' credit? But if we look at like Nexo, Nexo offers digital asset backed loans, which you have to put up 2 for 1. But the thing is that they have interest rates as low as 8%. So that's a really interesting thing to consider, is that there's already solutions out there. If you want to take $1,000, you can borrow $500, but you're going to pay 8% instead of 28%. And you can do it with digital asset. Now, are those credit cards or these loans actually going to help you establish credit? I'm not sure if they are. But I believe that that's the direction things are moving in. So you see these, yes, like a loan shark rain. That's exactly, those are loan shark rates. And that's my point. It's insane that, and you have Amazon, you think about, do something right. I get it. Again, you have to mitigate risk, but you can't use the old financial tools to dig your way out of this problem. People that have zero credit or bad credit or are unbanked is really the focus that we need to look at, are the unbanked, not necessarily those with bad credit, but those with no credit. So they're unbanked at this point. Can you use someone that has no bank, they have no credit? Is it fair then to give them a 28% credit card? That's crazy. But at the same time, we can start gaining entry and allowing individuals entry into the digital, into the global economy through a digital asset system, to which you're seeing organizations, again, yes, like Coinbase and Uphold and many others that are going to begin to offer credit cards or debit cards that are based in blockchain and based on digital asset. And so, again, I really think that if Amazon was really concerned about helping the underbanked or the unbanked, then they would find a new way to partner. They would find a new entity to partner with, and they wouldn't go back to the financial institutions of old in order to try to create something. So just kind of an observation, and I just think it was just very much highlighted when I saw that. Now, so anyhow, that's kind of, those are some of my thoughts, and this is why I think it's so important, again, that we stay very focused, and we kind of wade through a lot of the negative, politics that are out there that are being publicized. We have to stay focused on what's right. We have to stay focused on what's good, for the development of people in general. So now here's something else. Kind of along these lines. Let's see. Let me see if I posted this up here. And I think this was kind of a last kind of statement point here. And I love these. I love these headlines. German central bank chief pours cold water on digital currencies. Now, this was from yesterday. This article, the Deutsche Bundesbank. The president, Jens Wiedmann, added a dampener to discussions on central bank digital currencies, claiming they would destabilize financial systems and worsen bank runs. So, could you imagine? I mean, here's the FUD in the industry. So I bet, if you look at what's going on within the bank, here's the president of the bank. I bet if you look at what Deutsche Bundesbank is actually doing in the back end, they're probably finding a way, even though it's a central bank, they're finding a way to somehow bring in digital asset. So he's talking about how bad it is. It's going to destabilize financial systems. And he says here in a speech, he said the widespread use of digital central bank money could have serious consequences. And so it's just crazy. So he goes on, the sentiment from the BIS, Baslaskos and Weidman, I can't pronounce that name, is that there is merit in digital tokens. However, they condemn decentralized cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. And it just goes on and on, So I just thought, it's interesting. So you have BNY Mellon that's coming out, and they're really writing a praising article about this new asset class and what's happening and development and the fact that we're going to see, this movement into the tokenization of securities and all of this. And then you have the other side, just like Jamie Dimon, he comes out and he ridicules blockchain and even claims, he said it's not a breakthrough technology. So it's just, it's amazing. So imagine if all you had was negative news and you're waiting and all this negative news, and then you got to try to find the light and see what good is happening. So this negative news from this German central bank chief is no different, from the type of stuff that we just saw from Nancy Pelosi or from that other guy, the ex-Obama advisor. Same kind of, shocking. It's like shock and awe news, shock and awe statements to try to, get their attention off the prize and get it back into their way of thinking. So while everyone then, they try to shift people's attention, then they come around and they're trying to manipulate it on the other side. So just kind of crazy, So anyhow, so that brings us into a full hour. I was hoping to round this out in an hour, and look at this. You guys are doing, awesome. You guys got some great conversations going here. Definitely seeing some newer people coming on, more often, which is awesome. And so maybe through participation, maybe you've been here before, but newer to participating. So definitely, really appreciate everybody for being on and joining in on the stream and following and all that good stuff. So Auburn Rain, have you heard of the social score system that people are using to judge us on the same level as credit scores? I heard there was something going on in China, that they were working on a program like that. I don't know if there's any merit to it outside of that, and I don't know if that ever got any major traction over in China. But there was something along those lines where they're rating people's social media involvement. I forget exactly how it went, but yeah, definitely some issue there. So I know I'm a little bit back. Let me see. Let's see. All right, cool. Anything else here? Anything good? So today somebody came walking in, went to pick my son up at karate, and one of the dads had a Save Ferris 1986. It was kind of funny. I was just thinking, Bueller, anyone? So anyhow, all right, I'm gonna round it out here at this hour. Again, I really appreciate everybody for jumping on. We got up to around 50 in the stream, bounced back. Right now we're at 40 on the stream. It's absolutely outstanding. Again, appreciate everybody for hanging in there, commenting, participating. There's so much that everybody can learn from each other. I'm just really grateful for this opportunity to be able to dig through, present, and hopefully have an impact on people globally. And the same as I have this opportunity to learn from people all over the world. I think it's absolutely amazing. So again, really appreciate all y'all for coming on tonight. I hope to be on again on Wednesday. I'm going to be traveling, so if I make it back in time, then I'll be on. If for some reason I can't make it back in time, then I'll check you guys out maybe on Friday night. So we'll see how the rest of the week progresses. So again, appreciate everybody for being on. Look forward to seeing you again on the next stream. You'll see XRP Minute tomorrow night at 10 p.m. If I can't make it on Wednesday, then I'll check you out Friday at an earlier hour, or maybe even Thursday at an earlier hour. So we'll see what's going on. Thank you. It's good to see you on as well, Spanish Fly. Everyone else, I will check you guys out soon. Again, thank you. Have a good evening. OTC.